I'm Yolande Poirier from Oracle Technology Network, and I'm here at Devoxx today interviewing Trisha Gee. Trisha, thank you for coming.
No problem.
Tell us a little bit what you do.
I've actually just recently switched jobs. I've moved to Tengen, who do MongoDB, and I'm a Java developer there. They've got a lot of different drivers for the MongoDB platform, but they've got a Java driver which I'm specifically working on, and so I'm doing Java development for them, and also kind of doing more official evangelism like I was doing before when I worked at my last company. So still very much in the Java space, but getting out and talking about what we do and what it's, some of the hot topics in the Java community. And and on top of that, I'm part of the London Java community.
Okay. And so what other activities are you doing in the community, like purely community-wise? So
I'm involved in the London Java community, but I'm also involved in Duchess. And one of the things I have is there's kind of almost a pressure on women to do more stuff inside the community because there are so few of us, and sometimes sometimes women resent having to do that. But I think it's really important to get out there and say there are girl developers, and then talk about development stuff, not necessarily about the issues facing women in IT. So that's why I'm involved in the London Java community, because I like getting involved and meeting people and networking and organising stuff and standing up and talking to people, things like that.
So you had a session here about like the women approach, a technical approach, I think?
Yes.
So
well, I'm running that later on tonight, but I've done it twice before. I did it at Java 1, and I did it for the London Java community as well. And it's called a technical approach to women, or the problem with women. And it's basically around this idea. I mean, the thing is that as a girl developer, you always get asked all the time, why aren't there more women in development? And the answer is always, I don't know, because I'm here. And then the next question is, what should we do about it? And I got a little bit tired of it, because no one really goes around asking the men, why aren't there more women programmers? And no one goes around asking, where are all the people who aren't white middle-class males? They just focus on the women thing. And I really wanted to have a session which is more about, sure, there's a lack of women in IT, but let's focus on the underlying problem. What is the real issue here? And I believe the real issue is that we don't attract a diverse group of people because we conform to our own stereotype of bedroom programmers who don't really talk and don't communicate and want to be like this. And we perpetuate that stereotype. And it's not true, because you come to conferences like this and people are networking and meeting people and talking to people and they're learning stuff and they're having fun. And I really want to get the message out there that being in IT, being a technologist, is really fun and it's a great thing to do. And I think that by focusing on what's great about the job, I think will help to increase the diversity in IT generally, which might lead to more women, but it might lead to other segments of people that we don't talk about that are missing from the community.
So is the reality also of IT changing? I mean, do we need more collaboration, or how is the environment?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know if it's the reality of IT that's changing, or if it's that or if it's just we recognize something that's been true for a long time. When we develop stuff, we're developing them for users. We have requirements from usually a diverse set of users or from the business or whatever. We need to take those things and turn them into a product. And we need to work with a team of people usually in order to do this. And this has always been the case. We've always had to collaborate with the business, with each other, and then ultimately with the end users and find out what's wrong with it. When people have a bug, what do you mean by a bug? What do you expect to happen? It is a collaborative process. It is a job which requires you to have communication skills. I don't know if we're putting more focus on this now, or if it's always been like this and we always ignored that. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely something that we should be talking more about. This is what we do as part of our jobs, and it's a cool part of our jobs, talking to people and meeting people and doing cool stuff and finding out what users really want and what the business really wants, talking their language. It's a really interesting set of skills. It's not just talking to the computer. And I think people are starting to pick up on this as not just part of what we do, but as an interesting story to tell. And it means that we are going to start to attract different types of users. And I think that the explosion of technology, particularly for young people, the fact they've got mobile phones at like 3 years old and tablets and they're on Facebook all the time, the fact that technology pervades everything that we do these days, especially for younger people, that they can be very excited about the technology, and I think we should really use that. Right now is a really great time to get in there and say, see this Facebook thing, you know, you can help create another Facebook, or even just write apps for it, or you can do something that no one's thought of yet. You know, when you're using this tool and it doesn't do what you want, why don't you write something which does? I think now's a really great time to get into kids and say, you can be part of this. It's a great thing to be part of.
So are you going to run sessions for kids, or are you just...
I hope to. I mean, you know what it's like. I'm so ridiculously busy. But I'd really like to get involved in Devoxx for Kids. My parents are teachers, so I've got quite a lot of interest in getting involved in schools and education and things. So I definitely want to get involved in that sort of thing. I want to help other people get involved with that sort of thing as well.
Do you think there is a need, or there is a... I mean, that people really recognize that there is a need? Or?
Definitely. And in the UK, the education curriculum is changing to reflect this too. So schools are much more free to provide more of a computer science curriculum rather than simply a like word processing or PowerPoint. They don't have to. It's not just about being tool users anymore. It's about being creators. And schools are now enabled to provide that sort of program for them to work on, but they need people who are already in the industry to come in and teach that, because you know, teachers just they don't have the exposure to that sort of thing, and they're so busy, they're doing so many things, we can't really expect them to be experts at that as well. And I think it's down to us to go into the schools and say, I know you want to do this, let me help you do it.
So do you think it will attract more girls also, or more women in technology?
I think so. I mean, I think Stefan was saying Devoxx for Kids has, what was it, 25% girls at that program. And then by the time it gets to the conferences, we're down to about 5% women. I think that anecdotally, when I asked the London Java community how many women they were working within their own companies, it was like 15% technical women. So we're definitely losing people somewhere. So they are interested at sort of school age. And if they get used to working in those sorts of environments and they see it is something for them, then they won't kind of make this weird mental leap of, oh, I'm not interested in technology because I'm a girl, which is just some nonsense thing which has come from society, that, you know, the younger you get them, the more they're going to be like, I don't care if it's not supposed to be the sort of thing I want to do, I'm interested and I'm good at it.
Right. So what are the things that you recommend women to do today?
Anything, everything. You know, we've got so many opportunities. We've got, you know, conference organizers are keen for great speakers. They're keen for people to come in and run BOF sessions. They're keen for people to do, I mean, Devoxx has been really great because we've got these quickie sessions. So if you want to do a short 15-minute talk, you're not ready to move up to do a full conference talk, then you can just really get your feet wet with something like that. So talk at conferences, write blogs, you know, go into schools, talk to people at schools. Be a role model, which is a scary thing to be. I mean, everyone's like, well, why me? Why should I do it? I'm just a programmer. But the answer is because other people are doing it, and you know that it's working well for them. So why not you? You've got an interesting story to tell, even if it's just I went to school and then I became a programmer and now I just do this job. There aren't very many of us, and it's an interesting story to tell.
Tell us, how did you start? I mean, become a speaker? Because you have, I think, like 4 sessions at Devoxx this year.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy this year. I mean, I did my first conference at Java 1 last year, so it's only a year and a month ago that I did my first talk. And Devoxx was Devoxx, I was on a panel, so I didn't even do a proper talk on my own. My first solo conference talk was in March at QCon this year. This is not that long ago. And I've got 4 sessions at Devoxx now. And it's basically... So Martijn and Ben from the London Java community were both like, you could do this, you're good at this, you should just do it. And I'm like, yeah, I'll get round to that, don't worry, I'll come to it at some point. They pushed me to do a few sessions at the London Java community, did a lightning talk, did a couple of little talks there, which is a nice safe environment, it's local, it's, you know, people I know, so you know, it gives you a nice sort of warm, fluffy feeling that you can do it. And then my boss at the time from LMAX, he pushed me. He asked me if I wanted to co-present with him at Java 1. And I was like, that's crazy. I don't want to do Java 1 as my first conference. And I thought, well, it scares me, so I should do it. And I did it. And then off the back of that, I get to sort of start doing a bit more and more and more of it. And then when you ask conference organizers, do you want me to come and talk about something? They go, yeah, you should totally do that. Like, you know, you're good enough, you know. And so now I email loads of conference organizers and say, can I come and speak about something? And they say yes, usually.
So you did a session about agile development.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about it?
Yes, and this is basically lessons learned. It's basically lessons learned at LMAX, and so I was there for about 4 years, and I was really interested in the way they did agile. When I joined there, I'd read about it a lot in books, and I knew how it should be done in theory, and I'd seen it done very badly at lots of different places. And then LMAX, what I really was interested in is they started by the book and didn't make excuses for the stuff they didn't do. They just did most of that stuff as it should be done, if not all of it. And then as they came across one problem, they sort of identified what that problem was and tried a few new techniques on top of that to try and solve that problem. And they did that. It was a sort of iterative thing, so this kind of incremental, iterative, almost test-driven way of changing your process. And if something's not working, if estimation's not working, okay, let's look at why it's not working. Let's try this approach. That's not working. Let's try something else. And what I really wanted to do was tell the story of those kinds of challenges that even agile teams face, and the sorts of ways you can try changing each small thing as you go along to find out what works for you. And so also to blow away a bit of when people stand up and say, this is the way you should do agile. Well, that's not necessarily true. Let's figure out which bits work for you. And I can tell you what worked for us at LMAX. And so I also had Israel co-presenting with me on the agile talk because he still works at LMAX. And, you know, and he was fairly new to agile and fairly new to development when he joined LMAX. And for him, it's such a comfortable and natural way of working. It's great to have him talking about why it works as a developer and what feels so right about making these changes and what doesn't seem to work and what does seem to work.
Thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you, no problem.